So this is something we've had many rumors and leaks about over the past year, and it's a subject that I know many of you are very hopeful about. Newer games being added to the Nintendo Switch online service. Specifically today we're talking about Super Nintendo games, which would be the logical next step, I think, to the service. For those of you who might not even know, Nintendo Switch Online has a digital library of NES games that they add to every month. The videos announcing the additions are always pounded with dislikes and negative comments from the community, as the games, well, for one, the games a lot of the times, they aren't even that great of NES games to begin with, but for two, people feel we should be getting more. I mean, it's 2019. You can't muster more than NES games for this Nintendo Netflix type digital library? Like, come on. As I just alluded to, there have been several indicators that Super Nintendo games may soon be on the way, like there were reference to some of them being found in the Switch Online code and that. But today we may have gotten the best hint at it yet. Nintendo has filed a patent for what appears to be a Super Nintendo controller to be used with the Nintendo Switch. As you can see from this image from the patent, all we get a look at really is the back of the controller, but clearly this is a Super Nintendo controller. I mean, anyone who's ever held one can tell that that's what this is. And the controller also has an HAC model number, which is used to label Switch accessories specifically. Now sure, these companies, they file patents all the time, and that doesn't necessarily mean they are 100% making the thing they are patenting, but this is a pretty specific product that would have a very specific purpose. Don't forget, when we got the NES games announced for Switch Online, Nintendo soon released the NES controller Joy-Cons to go along with it, so players could, enjoy the games with an added level of immersion. I would assume that would be the same case for these. And if you're not, if they're not putting Super Nintendo games on Switch, then why would they even bother with something like this? In such an instance, I think designing Super Nintendo controllers to be used with the Switch would be more of a final step. After you already know you're putting the games on the system, then you'd probably want to talk about making Super Nintendo accessories, right? Probably not before. And the timing is definitely right. We're quickly approaching the end of the year, where I've stated many times in several past videos that Nintendo really needs to get something out there to entice people to be subscribed, to stay subscribed to this service. The 1-year anniversary of the Nintendo Online service is almost here, which means, one, yeah, they should do something to celebrate, and I think adding SNES games would be a great way to do that. But yeah, also everyone who subbed on day one and got a full year subscription, which I assume is a good amount of players given the price, have their subscriptions coming to an end. And they have to make that choice of whether or not to renew. You need something to get them excited about the service. Like I said, this thing has been hammered, blasted by the community since its inception pretty much, and things haven't really gotten that much better. So as of right now, I don't see much of a reason to stay subscribed. Similarly, Smash Brothers, I'm sure that game sold a ton of subscriptions when it dropped last year, but people who subbed for that game will also have their year ending in December. Now sure, people who are still playing the game a lot may stay subscribed just for Smash. I'll admit there are probably a fair amount of people in that camp. But what about the people who aren't? What about people who have played most of the current major online Switch games, at least the ones they're interested in? What's the next big online game for Switch that players are going to want to pay extra money to play it with their friends online? I don't think there really is one. Most of the big titles set to release for the next several months at least, I'd say are primarily games people will play offline. Even if there are online components, even online play, like the Pokemon Sword and Shield, we know they're going to have that raid type mode. I don't think these upcoming major releases are online enough, let's say, to get people to want to sub to the service for another year. And maybe Nintendo does have something up their sleeve in that department, but given what is on the slate for, say, the rest of the year, and the fact that these subscriptions are about to come to an end for many people, I do think this would make a lot of sense. Like I stated at the beginning of the video, there has been mounting evidence that Nintendo is preparing for Super Nintendo games to come to the Switch. It's not like it's going to take much to get these games running on the Switch. We have plenty of other companies doing collections as well as single game digital downloads of their older titles, some from the Super Nintendo era. So if they can do it, if Konami, one of the most hated companies in the gaming industry, can give us the Castlevania collection that has one of the best Super Nintendo games of all time on it, Castlevania 4, then I think the Big N can do it. Here's what I would do if I was Nintendo. September is when the Switch Online service turns 1. I think they should do, maybe not a direct, but maybe more of just like a random video drop like they did with the Switch Lite around that time. It doesn't have to have, a bunch of build or anything. It can just stealth drop out of nowhere. And they probably shouldn't get people's hopes up too much. But yeah, drop a video celebrating the 1-year anniversary of Switch Online. Nintendo can tout how many subscribers they have, how much time people spend playing online, that sort of crap. And there you announce that yes, finally, Super Nintendo games are being added to the Switch service. I think they could do a smaller rollout than what was done with the NES, like say between 10 and 15 games to start, but they should all be killers. No padding in that initial release. And the first party stuff, which I'm sure many want the most, should be the easiest to get anyway, since they already obviously have the rights to those games. So titles like Link to the Past, Super Mario World, Super Metroid, F-Zero, etc. should be there right off the bat on day one. And I would say just, adding like one game per month would be fine after that. I actually wouldn't mind, and I don't think many others would either, if they dropped one of the NES games per month in favor of a Super Nintendo one. So, like each month you just get one NES game and one Super Nintendo game, and that way you should be able to keep each one of higher quality. Like, you shouldn't have to feel like you're scraping the bottom of the barrel of each of these libraries anytime soon. And I think that'd be great. It'd be one of the few things people can actually commend the Nintendo Online service for. And yes, I think if they do this, it would very well build into more systems coming over into the future. Like once we do get Super Nintendo, I think sky's the limit for this. N64 and GameCube games, I think, would be very likely to come later. Maybe that would be the plan, like do one per year or something, one system per year, and get people to resub around that end of the calendar year time, which is when probably a lot of subs are going to come to an end. Personally, I would think one system per year is too long, like it's unnecessary, but I could see why they would do it like that. And I would also say, if they are going to keep this setup, this Nintendo Online service where it's kind of a Nintendo Netflix type deal for a long time, they keep this as something that just carries over to future hardware, then I think it wouldn't be so bad. I've said this in the past, I just want to be done buying these games over and over again. A title like Super Metroid, I can't even tell you how many times I've bought in that game on the various different, virtual consoles and eShops and that. Like, let's just finally have that digital library that is permanent. In 2019, there's no reason the system can't be kept and just continue to be built out and ported over to future platforms. Even if it has to be done as a subscription model. I know many of you just want to buy the games and keep them, but it definitely seems that Nintendo wants to keep making money off these classic games. So to me, if it comes down to either buying the games over and over again and restarting every time a new system comes out and subscribing to this service and the games just keep moving on to the next system, I'd honestly take the subscription. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on the potential of Super Nintendo games possibly coming to the Nintendo Switch. How likely do you think it is, and would it get you to stay subscribed to the service? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of Super Nintendo games possibly coming to the Nintendo Switch pretty soon, actually. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. And if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter @JohnnyZakari and join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends. Link to both in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching.